it's not just me reading it, but it's me understanding what they're going through and empathizing and then connecting it quite possibly to someone I know, like, and love. Heck, maybe it's connecting it to myself. Who am I in that moment? And a lot of folks don't spend enough time there, right? If we spent more time there, we wouldn't have nearly as much time to tell everyone else how they should be thinking and approaching things. That's
right.
And so that's why I find the power of questions, being so important. So again, what makes you feel that way? Or, what would you do if this were you?
Stan Pearson on the Front Row Dad podcast. What's up, brother?
Man, everything good. How you doing?
Dude, it's so fun to reconnect with you. How's Atlanta right now? How's the East Coast? I miss being over there.
I know, right? Everything is great. The weather's been kind of ebbs and flowing. Rain, then sunshine, but it's steady 70 degrees, so I'll take it. Sun is shining today.
I've heard you say, man, you say when you're on your show, you're like, I hope the sun is shining wherever you are. And if it's not, man, I hope you're finding it from within. I thought that was so cool.
Man, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
How's your family?
They're amazing. Baby Trey is taking a nap right now, recouping his energy to be full throttle later. Cynthia's doing well, awesome. She's amazing. That's how I get to be half as good. It's because she's helped me there.
Dude, did I see you? Are you doing some home repairs? I felt like I was watching something, man, on social where you.
I'm glad that you mistook it for that. No, I've been doing some home repairs, really trying to step into, dad build something mode, anything. So yes, I am built a table with real wood and screws and stuff, machines.
Damn, man.
Thank you for validating that.
Dude, you're not only a keynote speaker, you rock it on stage and off stage. Damn, Stan.
If you need a basic table, I am your man.
I love seeing you do life, man. I love that when I was out in your neck of the woods that we got the family together. I love spending time with you guys. So fun, just to see your world. I mean, we're going back. You and I met 2009-ish, 2009. So 11 years. So, I mean, it's really cool, man, to think about more than a decade that I've been following along with your journey. What do you feel good about right now, man? What can we celebrate with you? What's going well in any area of life?
Man, thank you. Number one, the family. I'm a better person, certainly not perfect by any stretch, but I'm just learning how to be better and be willing to be better. Let's say from a personal, familial standpoint, and professionally, I'm finding my stride. Where not just am I finding it, but I'm comfortable in it. Like, okay, this is me. I'm owning more of who I am, the good and great things just as much as I would, focus or think about the things I can improve on. So those are, two major things that are just kind of, moving.
Let's drill down into that, man. What have you learned about you? What's changed about you? How have you evolved as a man? There's a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. And then Brain Rules for Baby. That's another thing. I started kind of diving deeper into kind of the brain and how it works. And obviously, the meditation piece and mindfulness. But it's just, I'm more, some were like, that ain't saying much. I'm more patient now, right, than I was before. But I'll go back to I'm willing to be more sensitive in areas and times where I wouldn't have been before. And that's just major. I hope that echoes, and the other folks around me kind of see. Dude, it echoes with me. You don't ever strike me as the type of person who will lose his shit, though. Do you? Do you just totally lose it, man?
Oh man, I haven't completely lost my shit like that in a long time. I still get angry. I think I express that anger in a different way, and I'm still kind of trying.
Wow. Wait. Let's get specific. Is it like, gosh darn it, y'all, I'm angry? Is it that, or because I've punched walls, you know what I mean? I've gotten loud. And I've said that on the show before, I'm not proud of those moments in my life, but I hear
guys will come on the show, man, and they'll say, I pick up my 6-year-old and I held my 6-year-old like 6 inches from my face and I screamed in his face, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not about comparing levels of losing your shit. And it's not a bragging competition about who loses their shit more. But I think there's a relatability to know that, hey man, other people out there, and this is what it looks like when they're out of control, because everybody gets out of control. Some people stuff it, and that's, there's lots of ways of coping and dealing with things. But anyway, I'm just,
No, man, I appreciate that transparency. I haven't punched a wall in a long time. In that way, it's like,
that means you have.
I fought the air before.
Yeah.
Maybe it's outside now in the comfort of my own backyard. Yeah. But you're right though. Like even Stan being, or Trey or baby Stan being 2. I'm like, Stan, like he's not an adult, but I'm firm, and then I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, how do we get here? Or even, as, Cynthia and I grow, like, I'm just like, I'd call it firm, right? I don't know what that means yet, but I'm like, okay, so I'm not raising my voice at someone else. I'm not screaming or whatever, but I'm firm, and my language isn't to be misunderstood. I'll call it that. So before, I'll just say I wouldn't even be willing to consider what those things mean or how to make them better. It's like, it just is. So good luck.
Yeah. When you're meditating now, what app, what process, what form of meditation are you using?
Mostly in the beginning, I used to use Headspace a bit.
Yep.
But now I find myself, whether it's, just sitting in a chair or being outside, sitting down and just being still. I haven't been I want to improve my level of time, my meditation. So maybe it's 5 or 10 minutes where I can be locked in. Let's say on my best day of meditating.
Right.
But I really would like to extend that. And I have a meditation pillow, that I don't use as often as I could. That makes me feel real official, by the way. Just having the pillow doesn't do anything for the extra meditation.
Dude, I love that we're talking about this, because, it's actually this idea of meditating and keeping our cool. This ties to a couple things. One, we're in the theme right now inside the Brotherhood, our private group within Front Row Dads. 187 guys now. We got 2 months focused on emotional intelligence. So we just had John Berghoff come in, run a training on the neuroscience, right, of leadership. And, he brought up concepts from Dr. Danny Friedland, and he was talking about emotional intelligence and why that's so important. I mean, I think even if we talk about where we are in the world right now, 2020, election time, COVID, learning to manage our internal condition, our internal state is so important, right? This is like, there's a lot of things happening, and we try to align all this inside the group with our meditation challenge that we're doing. I'm so grateful for it, because with all that's going on right now, and the fact that the kids are being homeschooled and Tatiana is being challenged deeply by that, which means if she's being challenged, we're all being challenged, right? Our relationship is being challenged, because when one person's thrown off on the team, everybody gets thrown off on the team. It throws a challenge to the team. So, man, talk to me about, talk to me about your interest and your passion right now around conversation and, all of what's happening in the world with so many different opinions, right? There's a lot of diverse opinions in the world right now. And as a man who's a host, a man who's a facilitator, a man who's a speaker, a man who uses his voice to not only say incredible things, but ask incredible questions, how are you approaching life right now?
Wow, thank you for that question. And really quick to your point about Tatiana, I think people have to realize that it is a team. And if one person is affected, the collective is affected. And even being willing for folks listening to be able to admit and see that creates progress. So I wanted to mention that.
these conversations, wow. I think it's important to be willing to choose empathy over ego. That has been one of the most powerful pieces of being able to have diverse conversations and being willing to understand someone versus having to agree with them. Those two pieces end up, that's because folks get in a competitive mode where folks aren't necessarily rooting for what's best. They're just kind of rooting for their own team, right? So getting to a point where it's like, okay, are you understanding where I'm coming from or understanding my experience? Because some of the worst, let's say, arguments, disagreements, debates I've ever been involved with, it's been like, I want you to understand me. The frustration more than anything else is coming from the place where you feel like you have to agree with me. When I want you to understand me and have an open vessel so things can flow through it. But I'll say the empathy piece over ego has helped navigate conversations and providing that opportunity to folks say, hey, let's step back for a moment. What is this person saying? Or I believe that you can control or help understand conversations much better if you're willing to ask that one follow-up question to every question. And if folks did that, we'd be better off. But right now, I don't know if that's the case for everyone.
How do you define those terms, empathy and ego, for yourself?
Well, empathy for sure is, there's emotion, there's understanding, the human to human piece. Folks talk about we're all human, we all come from the same place, we're all the human race. People speak to that. And in theory, it sounds amazing. In practice, it takes work, which leads to the ego piece, which is also rooted kind of in our DNA. It's who we are. It's what we've learned from the moment we're in elementary school and understanding what differences are and knowing, how we have discussions about differences and how those differences affect us. And there's often the conversation about kids who are, the great thing about kids is, they don't see color, they don't see difference. And my comment is always like, well, actually they do, they're just okay with it. But as we move through the world, whether it be being influenced by television news, we're then led to believe that difference isn't as okay. And as a matter of fact, difference can hurt you, it can take from you, which is what creates more difficult conversations. Because if you wake up one day and you're 40 or 50 years old and you learn something as truth or that's new, well, now I have to have the conversation with my younger self up to that point as to, who have I been all this time if it's rooted in something that's not true or off base?
How do you stay empathetic with people in your life? How do you display empathy to your wife or to people that really are pushing your buttons? I mean, I think about right now, things like vaccines, mandatory vaccines. And this is really this is like polarizing, where some people are like, you will literally have to murder me before you put a vaccine in my body. And other people are like, if you don't put a vaccine in your body, you are the murderer. Right. So it's like, when you're in that situation, how does somebody, I want to know what you think and what you think the solution is for the world, right? When it comes to being empathetic.
Right. All too often, we don't care until we are forced to care. So again, people are going, not even from their own personal experience, they're going like from some imaginary place that maybe they've not even come in contact with someone who's had an experience. So if I know someone that is experienced COVID or been personally affected by the pandemic, or I've read about someone who has, and as real as that is, it's not just me reading it, but it's me understanding what they're going through and empathizing and then connecting it quite possibly to someone I know, like, and love. Heck, maybe it's connecting it to myself. Who am I in that moment? And a lot of folks don't spend enough time there, right? If we spent more time there, we wouldn't have nearly as much time to tell everyone else how they should be thinking and approaching things. That's
right.
And so that's why I find the power of questions, being so important. So again, what makes you feel that way? Or, what would you do if this were you?
Yeah.
And everyone has remember a couple of years ago, I say, the more you live, the less you judge. It's like it sounds good until you find yourself in a situation that you never thought you'd be in. Or I can't believe they said this, or they did this, or they want to do this.
Yep.
And then they're there. And my last piece is, I think that happens more than we see. And because we don't see it, we don't believe it happens. And people keep those secrets to themselves, like, uh-oh, it happened to me. Gosh, so. But that is what the empathy piece means versus even the ego piece, and how to deal with these circumstances. That I am emotionally tied to some of these subjects, but again, whether it's meditating and gaining a greater focus of what's most important and what I am responsible for, what I am in control of, helps breathe more of a calm to me, because an angry mind cannot think.
Yeah. When you think about your brothers in life, your best buddies, whoever they might be, and let's talk about two groups of those best buddies. So one of them might be like guys you grew up with. There's all the guys, your neighbors. There's the people that you work with. There's all those guys. And then there's guys inside our brotherhood in Front Row Dads, right? And so there's the two groups. But when you think about those conversations, I know you and I have had this dialogue around how do we talk to each other? How do we relate to each other? How do we learn about each other's differences? How do we grow from those differences? When you talk about buddy to buddy, brother to brother, how do you approach those conversations? Do you have a framework? What's your heart going into them, right? Like, how do you step into those spaces?
Purely, originally as an observation, like to know what's going on with people. How are they feeling? What are they experiencing? And if we're talking about obviously social media, what have they been through? What's been the good thing, the highlights, the lowlights? It might be shared, and getting to a common place where you can share in those things and come from a place, of support. That's the first piece that has been powerful, to be able to have an authentic conversation with someone and to actually care. Because there's the autopilot piece, and that is kind of, we have pre-programmed responses. You're traveling, someone says, "Nice flight" behind the counter. You say, "You too." They're not going anywhere, but you don't care.
Right.
Autopilot, right? So,
or somebody walks by, they go, "What's up?" And you go, "What's up?" Did either of us actually give a shit, or were we just? This is what you say. What's up? What's up?
How
you doing? How you doing? Yeah. No answer.
No answers. Right. So the follow-up, I think, to that, from, the brothers, as you mentioned, kind of growing up with and having fun with, or, in the brotherhood, is being willing to kind of be observant and asking how people are doing and meaning it, like sticking around for the answer. I'll be full disclosure. I remember when we met, it's people don't often ask questions, want to know how you're doing. And from folks who are new to that world, right? It's like, what's their angle? What do they want from me? Yeah, you're a little bit too nice, or whatever it is. Like, so what's up? So you spend those initial moments figuring out, all right, what's this all about? When something is good, it can just be good. And I think that has been, part of my growth and inside of the brotherhood, is learning about guys completely different from me, and them sincerely wanting to learn more about me. And that begins this trickle down effect of what we teach ourselves, what we teach our kids, and what we undoubtedly, teach our communities.
As a fraternity guy, I know that a little bit about your past, right? As a fraternity guy, what were some of the things you learned about how to treat people in your fraternity? Was there like a code of conduct and how to show up for each other?
Yeah, heck, yes. So, we, in terms of, manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind, right? And it seems really commercial when you start out, manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind. But during that time, even I found that you can have a common mission and everyone within the group still not get along. Talk about that not getting along and know that the mission is what's most important. So whatever we need to do as a collective, heck, we may fight, we may argue, we've done all the above. and know that, we all had each other's best interests in mind. And that's why, coming up on 20 years later, we can talk about, school and what we went through and what we experienced and the foundation that we built on the way up. And in every organization may not operate the same. The hope is that they do, that they have a foundation where this is like, hey, this is where we come from: scholarship, manly deeds, and love for all mankind. And then there's some other pieces as well, but this is what we stand on. We're not moving this rock. We're just going to build on it, which has been, to this day, I'm thankful. Actually, a brother of mine sent me a gift, for our anniversary, our 20-year anniversary, and it's just really, really cool to grow, to evolve. It's amazing. It's difficult. It's painful. I always equate it to yoga because I'm horrible at that. But I always tell people, like, learning and evolving is like yoga. It hurts at first. And you do it day 2, week 2, still hurts a little bit, but you've stretched a little bit. You're a little stronger inside and out. Month 5, month 6, and you end up becoming a new person. You're stronger. You're more open. Learning is the exact same way. It's going to hurt like hell in the beginning, but if you continue to do it, it's going to feel better in the end.
Speaking of hurt, which conversations hurt the most for you? Like, as a guy who, talks about and speaks about diversity, right? Tries to be accepting, but man, which conversations are like, they get your blood boiling?
Man. There are a couple of them. One, and Cindy and I had this conversation. I told her, I said, sometimes I feel like I live in a world where the world doesn't love me, and I'm lucky enough to have some people like me, from a world standpoint. And it's frustrating for folks not to know anything about, let's say, historical content, historical context, the history of anything, to make blanketed statements or just to be mean, just because you can be. And above that, it's having those conversations with people that I thought I knew, that I thought were my friends, that I didn't think I would have to educate someone on. It's like, well, why are we having this conversation out of all the people that should be educated or should know, or again, have more empathy? Why am I having this a stranger, okay, but you? And those don't happen as often, but they happen. Or seeing other people have to have those conversations is difficult. It's traumatic. It's traumatic. And I'll, let's say, fairly say it can be traumatic for both sides.
Sure.
Because again, this, whether it be the pandemic on top of social unrest, on top of the subject of diversity, so many more things are being learned now. So again, if you wake up to all this new information, well, what do you do with that? Do you decide, okay, you stand and understand the new stuff? Or do you go, no, whatever I've learned up to this point is the truth? Because guess what? My mom or dad taught me, or my sisters, my brothers, they taught me, and they wouldn't lie to me. So yeah, good luck. And that is a struggle, I know, for other folks who are trying to find their way along this diversity world and this diverse place we live in. But it's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
The topic of race came up a lot in 2020. At least in my world, it did, right? And somebody argue that topic has been brought up for lots of years prior to 2020, and they would be right. But it felt like in my world, particularly, it was brought up more this year than any time in the last decade, let's say. What did you learn this year about that? What voice did you want to have in the conversation this year? What did you want the world to know about race and about Stan Pearson's take on this?
That it's funny because oftentimes I think, I'm like, why aren't they interviewing me? You should ask me. You see, like sometimes you see interviews like, why are they talking to that person? Those people, right? That legit, we all are. Everyone's a person, and we are all humans. We are absolutely different. we have different experiences. And while there may come shame from learning about someone else's experience, that doesn't make you guilty of you being responsible for it. It just means that understanding what they went through not only makes you a better person, but creates a better system in society for everyone else to move on.
Yeah.
No one, wants to be given anything, maybe outside of the respect that everyone else receives. And it's that small piece that if other folks were just willing to understand that, we can move forward. Hey, I'm not a woman. I've never been. Yet to understand women a little bit better, I may ask Cynthia some questions about her experiences or what she knows to be true. And so, because that's not my lane.
Yeah.
And so that's what's helped some growth. And I think that would help other people too. So if I was starting that conversation, it would certainly be that, be willing to listen and lead with a question and not your answer.
Yeah. Do you think the world changed this year? Do you think we grew? Do you think as a society that we evolved?
Wow, that's a great question. I do believe we evolved because so many were forced, let's say, draw their line in the sand. Because there were some really explosive topics that were going on that on both sides, people felt like they could no longer ignore. So generally, maybe I wouldn't be as outspoken, just kind of let something go. It's like, what? This is divisive.
Yeah.
This is dangerous. People, so there has been some evolution because now people are seeing things or hearing things that they can't unsee, that they can't unhear. And that creates an opportunity for growth that I do think is happening. And I'm excited about that growth, but it doesn't come without pains. And I think folks should know that too.
What's the message you want the world to know about diversity? So when you think about that term again, if you said, look, my mission is to what when it comes to diversity in the world?
Quite simply that, effort on fire beats knowledge on ice. We're not asking anyone, or no one's asking anyone to be perfect. And certainly people shouldn't ask that of themselves. But I hope that people are just willing to make progress.
Yeah.
In a way that helps the collective.
Yeah. What's a question, or what are some of your go-to questions? Like we talked a lot about listening and, being empathetic and trying to understand someone's world. When you're meeting somebody or you're in a conversation and you're dealing with somebody that's very different than you, what are your go-to questions? Like what specifically are you asking?
Wow, someone I've never met before. What's the most exciting thing about you that I wouldn't know by looking at you?
Yeah. That's a cool one. That's a good one.
That's my go, and that's the go-to, and then that kind of leads to a bunch of other things because some folks don't even think they're amazing anyway. Yeah. So to force them to think, oh, okay, all right. Yeah.
How do you differentiate between asking interesting questions and like where you're going to go too far? Do you have a code amongst yourself where you're like, that's just like, do you bite your tongue and go, I might not come off the right way? Or like, where does somebody walk that line of like courageously stepping in to ask bold questions and like then really being offensive with like, are you really asking me that? Like, you're an idiot.
Because I think people who are offensive, they know it, right? So sometimes it's shock value. Some folks are brave enough to jump to a 10. Yeah. But I always advise people to meet someone where they are at, and then rise with them.
Yeah.
Right? We can guide and move conversation, massage them in the direction we want to go. Like, let's meet them where they're at. It's kind of like meeting someone who's kind of a shy person, like, how you doing? Right? It's like, no, I'm at a 1 right now. So that's my general advice to folks. And that's certainly, it works for me, and also in difficult conversations, because there's some people that don't get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't want to get it. So again, meeting them where they're at, and then we dig a little, we dig a little bit, and see what they have underneath.
When you were growing up, did you feel heard? Did you feel accepted for who you were?
Oh man, I don't know what, in a moment I just got emotional. I don't know if it showed on my face, but it's weird because great family, my parents From, originally from Chicago, right outside of Chicago. They grew up in Chicago. I mean, my dad both my parents came from nothing. We hear that a lot, what they're going to eat. My dad running from gangs to get to school, to get back home, and work for the same company 35 years. Just really an example. My mom worked as well, took care of, but I mean, I'm so fortunate. And then, we grew up listening to Zig Ziglar, and he had little jingles, get that stinking thinking out of here, don't be a bullfrog. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So imagine me in junior high singing those on the bus. Like, that doesn't really,
You were hit with the ladies, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they couldn't turn old Stanley away back in the fifth grade, right? So, some of the guys, let's say I'm athletic, or I thought I was a nice guy, right? So it was that piece. But again, I went through this period, even into adulthood, where I wasn't black enough for my black friends. It was like I was too black for my white friends. Cuando aprendí español, a mis amigos, when I learned Spanish, people would, you're ashamed of who you are. You're confused. That was probably, again, as a young person into college, even one of the most difficult times in my life, trying to please everyone. But we all learn at some point that you can't, and you have to be better pleasing yourself. And I talk about that often because it still happens to people, because there's a moment in life where you realize that you are different, and being comfortable with that piece is okay. But I'd say growing up, that was the difficult part, because I wasn't, let's say, your stereotypical black guy or black kid growing up. And even folks that looked like me, didn't take kindly to who I was trying. Oh, you're a sellout. You're, an Oreo. Like, where does this come from? We're 12 years old, or
Yeah.
like, what are we doing? Anyway,
Dude, I'm 5. Let it go.
And everyone loves Oreos.
What do you want to make sure that your family understands about diversity, about your boy, right? What do you want him to know? What type of environment do you want to create? What type of experiences do you feel are important as a dad now?
Yeah, being kind. I think being strong and being kind. I haven't decided which order, right? But I think both are equally as important to me, to us, and the world we live in, where there's just a lot happening. Everything is fluid. It's moving and shaking. I think that it pays to be kind to people. People pull up to drop something off. Bye. He's waving goodbye, but he will, if he doesn't know you, he will kind of like, all right, what? Like,
yeah, I remember at dinner, man, super observant of everything, just taking it all in, dude. I loved it.
Yeah, so he has some discernment. So that, for him and for us, what we discussed before he ever arrived on planet Earth, I was like, hey, I want him to be proud of who he is. Whatever he likes, I want him to love it and embrace it and take pride in it. And slightly off topic, I think that's important for anyone. Like, for their parents out there that have shy kids, and the kids are kind of embarrassed of what they enjoy or with their pastime. It's just like, no, lock in, because that could be your gift, your key to unlocking all the doors you ever wanted. So that's it, like taking pride, loving himself, even when he's falling asleep for his nap, or going to bed at night. I always am talking to him as he's drifting off, like, you're amazing, you're smart, you're responsibly brave. I always say responsibly brave. You're responsibly brave, you're loving, you're caring, because I'm trying to dial that into his DNA. So one day it's going to be there, and he's not going to know how it got there.
That's so good. I'm going to write that down. Responsibly brave. It's a good one, man.
Thank you.
I like that a lot. And you know what I hear when you say that is, like, that's super intentional, Stan. Like, that's just super intentional parenting, man. Really want to honor you for that. You might have just answered this question, but let me ask it a different way. And I feel like you just answered this, but let's see. If there was just one thing that your boy could know, or any children that you may have in the future, any child maybe that even you're being a father figure for in this world, what's the one thing you want them to know, right, about themselves, or about the world? So if it's one thing that maybe there's 1,000 things that are important, what do you want your boy to know more than anything?
More than anything. He has what it takes.
Mm. Dude, that's so great. Dude, you and I did not talk about this, but you literally just answered what we've been talking about behind the scenes. I got to tell you this, man. That's so beautiful to hear. When we were in Colorado for our retreat, we had 11 guys there. And I asked this question to all 11 guys. I said, just real quick, gut reaction. You have 30 seconds to think about this answer and then turn to somebody and share. The answer is, what's the one thing you want your kid to know? And dude, every single person said basically what you just said.
Shut up, man.
Yeah. And they said it in their own unique way, but they were ultimately saying what you just said. And if I could show you right now, there's a graphic that we just made. Rach sent it to me last night. And the word that we've been playing with in the brotherhood right now, you don't know this yet, but I'm just starting to reveal it, is about source. So the word being source, like, and what that word means to me is, in my own life, in my own experience, is recognizing that when I want to create change or be influential or to show up for people in the most powerful way, that it all begins with recognizing that I am the source, right? I am within me, in my heart, that I am a source of wisdom, of love, of compassion, of empathy, of all those things that you spoke about on the show, that is within me, that I'm not empty and looking to bring things from the outside in, but yet I am rich and full and vibrant with all these incredible gifts that were born into me. And while that when you know God, and this is just a little bit of my opinion, right? But it's like when you know God, that you know yourself. Because if you are a creation of God, if we are one, if we are connected, if all brothers and sisters, right? If this is a universal life force, that you are, when connected to yourself, you're connected to the universe. You're connected to your God, whatever God you worship and practice, praising and loving upon. I believe that is a knowing that you have what it takes, right?
Yes, and just a little bit more. I think that what you just said, if people are again diving deep, then they realize they have God in them.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and what kind of that's a superpower.
Yeah.
Again, to whom much is given, much is required, which means you become a little bit more accountable.
Yeah.
You know that there's God in you, that you have that ability, and that you are a source. Man, but it's something to know, or even want to have it, and know that it's in you.
Yeah. So I love thinking about that, man. Like little Stan having he's the source, dude. He has what it takes. It was said a lot of different ways that, that they are love, that they are nature, they are one with the universe, and whatever it might be. It's like but what we want them to know is that within that person, there is power. Yeah. What do you think, speaking of powers, dude, what do you think is your superpower or superpowers? What do you think is your genius zone?
My genius zone? I don't know if, people have told me that I've changed their life, which is, it's always amazing to hear. I know you hear it a lot. I think what my genius power is, I give people the right tools to change themselves.
Yeah.
And that is what I really feel like I'm gifted with that. And whether it's, coaching or a presentation or just like an interaction with folks, it just feels good. It begins to shift the trajectory of their day, their morning, and maybe their life. Maybe that's thinking too big, right? But that's who I am. So I'm just going to say that, where they're altered infinitely because of just this, and I think that's where my superpower is.
Yeah. Let me bring up this one subject. I'm going to circle back to a subject that we already touched on, but I want to leave us on this note. And I want to talk about being in a brotherhood. And it's something that I think of you as just like the greatest friend, man. Like when I think back, to our time as rising keynote speakers, and we're speaking in the college market, you and I, dude, we're roommates together. We're sharing what's working. I'm sending people over to talk to you. You're sending people over to talk to me. Like I'm watching your presentation and you're watching mine. We're offering feedback to each other. Like, and you also brought this great spirit, Stan. Like you brought this encouraging, wonderful spirit. When I look back on my time in that era of my life, you were critical for me. Like you were.
Thank you.
I don't know that I would have been able to keep the house or put food on the table or succeed as an entrepreneur in that space without you at that time. Like I was so grateful for you and still am. But in that moment, dude, I was just like, Stan is my buddy. He's got my back. I feel it. I'm appreciative of him. So I say all that to just create some context that, dude, brotherhood is so important. Having dudes in your life that you really can connect with. And you and I are different. We had different speaking styles, maybe similar in some ways, but we're different guys. We had different subject matters. You were the salsa king. I was a little jealous, man, because Stan would have these breakout sessions with all these students and everybody would go to Stan. I'm like, how many people were in your session? Stan's like, I like 50. And I'm like, he's like, how did yours go? I'm like, I had 4. I was like, shit, I should probably learn how to salsa. Dude, you were just like, I don't know, man. I guess I'm not only saying thank you publicly to you, but I really want to bring up this kind of closing conversation because I want men to walk away today after hearing this, thinking about who are the brothers in their life? How are they showing up for them? Who can they appreciate? What can they do to be a better brother to other people? What do they want from other brothers in their life? So I'm kind of giving you an open canvas here to just talk about anything that's on your heart as it relates to brotherhood, anything that you want to invite into the conversation. So just free reign, whatever you want to talk about.
Thank you. Brotherhood is paramount, and however people decide to shape it, they need to be a part of something greater than themselves. I don't have any, let's say blood brothers. I have, 2 older sisters. I had some cousins, that I'm really tight with. But I got to see my dad, and his older friends and the kind of people that he placed himself around that, enriched him. And there are folks that, let's say, if they weren't fruitful, if they weren't, trying to be better, then they weren't allowed in his, let's say, personal real estate. And I found that to be valuable as I, got older and got into school. And as you know, being a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, that was kind of my first official brotherhood, in school, and knowing like, okay, I can be a part of this group and not always get along with everyone, but we still get stuff done. Okay, okay. I don't have to know everything. Or matter of fact, newsflash, I don't know everything. And then dealing with that, like I'm not the smartest, whatever it is, because a brotherhood means there's all these other pieces to this puzzle that you get to be a part of. It doesn't have to be all about you, and it isn't about you. It's about what's greater than you. And then obviously, this brotherhood and leveling up and evolving as a person is powerful, and being intentional, right? If folks want to grow and they're saying, I want to be a better person, the first, okay, what are you doing to be a better person? And it seems like a simple question, but there really are some layers to it. So being a part of a brotherhood, it should be, especially as a dad, you have to be around what you want to be. That's it. So and it's not perfect, people or dads. That's not even what the mission and the mantra is. It's obviously, right, as you speak to. It's like, we're trying to improve. I remember when, we talked about it, about being, a member of the Front Row Dads and being a part of the brotherhood. It's like, perfect isn't actually what we're looking for. I'm like, whew, good, because guess what? I suck sometimes. And I think being willing to suck, or to not be your best and be around folks that are trying makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, that's right. And it's through all those different types of people seeing things differently than you. It is truly that diversity makes us strong. Like we talk about aligning values and we're like, this is what we care about. And if you care about those things, then this is the right group. But there's a way of saying this that I've never quite figured out how to say it, but it's how do you bring that diversity into these shared values? Because there are some values that if you don't value that, then you're not going to really get along with our group. Like if you're not willing to listen, if you're going to be disrespectful, that's not the type of difference that we're looking for, right? So respect is sort of this like requirement to be in the group. You have to be respectful. The yes and building upon people's conversations, but diversity in opinions, right? Whether or not something is good or not for you, that's good, because I think that friction, those heated conversations, that's warmth, that's fire, that's energy. That's what we need more of. Like I crave that too. It's fun to talk with people like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. But that kind of gets boring pretty quickly. Yeah. I have my most entertaining conversations when somebody's like, that's interesting. And then, and then you know what comes next, right? Or when I go, like I've got some buddies where I go tell them how, insane my wife is, for an example. And then all of a sudden I realize by the end of that conversation that I might be the one that's really insane. That's a good buddy right there. Because it's nice sometimes when your buddy's like, yeah, she's crazy. Yeah. But that doesn't always help. You don't need buddies around you that are always like, yeah, she's insane. But hey man, what about your stuff? Right? What about your world?
Yeah, like challenging,
right? Like I want to be challenged, man. I seek out the challenges. I don't, not unnecessarily like intentional challenges.
Yeah. Right? And it's growing up again. I want to say into young adulthood. I was, again, something I'm not proud of. I would always say I was passive, very aggressive. And unfortunately, that's not a great, if there was something that someone, so what are you trying to improve on growing up? And even still, sometimes I fall into just kind of letting things happen. But as I've grown and evolved, being more willing to challenge and embrace a difficult conversation, even if I'm literally like within myself, pushing myself to have it, like, whew, I'm glad we're here. And there's power in that. Because when you don't do that, you also create anxiety, stress, and these improper buildups that turn you into something that you don't want to be in the first place. For sure. Love them.
Dude, anything else you want to say that hasn't been said?
And you said, you're great at this, by the way. I don't know if you knew. Bazillion podcast episodes later. No, man, John, I love you. I appreciate you from day one. And I love your family, Tatiana, Tiger, Ocean, and seeing Tiger since before he was Trey's side.
Yeah, dude.
We've come a long way, man. And I'm just glad to not just be in a brotherhood, but to call you a friend.
Yeah. Dude, thank you for saying that, man. I love you too. I love what you've created. I love that we are growing in our own spaces, but yet we keep finding a way to come back together, to talk, to figure out what's next. And this collaboration has been it's really awesome. So dude, please keep on the path that you've been on, because it's so inspiring. Please keep sharing it within our brotherhood and with the rest of the world. Dude, every time I see you being interviewed on TV somewhere or writing another book or whatever it is that you're up to, like I'm pretty sure 6 months from now, I'm going to be impressed by your creativity. Like you, dude, you're an entrepreneur at heart, dude. I
appreciate that.
You are an entrepreneur at heart. So I love it, dude. It's just so fun. Yeah, man, thanks for being here today. Thanks for being a family man with a business and, being willing to take a stand for your family and for our crew. Appreciate you very much, man. Where do people go connect with you? Where can they find more Stan Pearson?
For sure. If they go to stanpearson.com, StanPearson.com, stanpearson.com. And that kind of is a key to the city. You can learn a little bit more about me there and then connect with me on social media from there as well, or wherever you need to.
It's awesome. Yeah, guys, I give Stan my highest recommendation if you can ever connect with him, to learn from him. Dude, you've written books for young people that if you're out there and you've got kids, what age would you say are some of your books perfect
I'd
for?
say
Because they
that anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 14, 15 would be great. And they could easily go to mentalflightschool.com. They go to mentalflightschool.com, they'll end up getting some ebooks and probably get a couple gifts from me as well from Mental Flight School. So yeah, certainly go there as well, mentalflightschool.com. But that age group from 10 to 14 is a nice sweet spot for them.
Dude, it just hit me that we should have Tiger go through that book as part of his homeschooling program. Like, that would be killer. We should get Tatiana to do that. She's always looking for resources to,
Really?
to bring to the kids. And I'm like, I totally forgot about this one.
I'm going to send you another research that kind of is conjunction with that, which will relieve Tatiana of a little bit. There's a vault of video,
right.
stuff like that.
Oh, cool, man. Awesome. Stan, I love you, buddy. Thank you for being here again, man. I look forward to more.
Love you. Thank you so very much, Sean.